So now in this lesson, we want to talk about effective reading. What are hindrances and why it matters to be able to read effectively. So this is why reading matters and what are some hindrances to it. And then as a kind of part two, we will then talk about the Bloom's taxonomy of thinking skills and how that also relates to this idea of reading and how it can be a help. If you've never heard of Bloom's taxonomy, then you're about to be educated in it. But the question of why reading matters. I meet people all the time, quite often, particularly younger people, and older people as well, that don't really like to read. I remember going to a man's house who had recently been struck by lightning, and he thought the TV had died. And this guy was probably in his 60s, and he actually said, "I don't know what I would do if I lost my television." My first thought was read a book, but people just don't automatically think like that nowadays because we have so many screens and access to basically passive entertainment. And that's one of the common reading challenges, is we have so many screens and access to passive entertainment. But let's talk for a moment about why reading matters. Now, according to healthline.com, there are a number of benefits to continuous habitual reading. So let me just go through a few of these. One of them is that it improves brain connectivity. So your brain is made up of trillions and trillions of synapses, and they connect to each other, and you end up with what's called neural pathways. So based on a variety of reasons and circumstances, or whatever you want to call it, because of certain things, your brain tends to wire itself in certain ways. Some of that depends on your gender. Other elements depend on your maybe your education, whatever kind of habits you've developed, a bit of genetics. Things like this all come together and create brain connectivity. So reading aids in stronger connectivity and new neural pathways that can be formed in your brain. So it's good for your general brain health. Another reason why reading is important and why reading matters is because it increases your vocabulary and comprehension. My dad had a habit of, when he came across a word in a book that he didn't know, he would write that word in the back of the book, and then he would break out a dictionary and he would write the definition down next to the word. So, and then he would make sure that he underlined the word or circled the word or marked it of some kind in the text, so that he knew that he had that definition written down the back of the book. So having a larger vocabulary aids in greater ability to communicate thoroughly and more completely and more sophisticatedly. So if you've got a good vocabulary, you're well on your way to having a brain and an ability to be able to communicate well. And reading does that to you. It allows for you to have a broader scope of vocabulary and comprehension. I am currently right now reading this book, Ideas Have Consequences by Richard Weaver, and I'm finding it's a very dense book, but it is fascinating in that it is explaining concepts in either a way I never thought of them before or using words I never considered before as well. And so it's helping me in my comprehension of various topics and having more than one way to understand it. Another benefit to effective reading is it aids in sleep readiness. Now, I don't know if you've ever done this, where you're laying in bed, you're tired, but you break out your phone. And then suddenly you kind of wake up a little bit. And the reason why is because it's the light coming off the phone that is stimulating your brain a little bit, and it kind of wakes you up. Now, eventually you probably would fall asleep with your phone in front of you, but reading a book that you maybe are interested in, a novel or something to that effect, will actually put you to sleep pretty quickly. I mean, I don't know how many times I've not got through one page of a book before I fall asleep. And so it helps your brain unwind a little bit. It gets you away from the artificial light of the TV or the device or the computer, and it preps you for a better sleep. Also, Reading matters because it prevents cognitive decline as you age. So one of the benefits of reading throughout your entire life is it keeps your brain going, and it actually will not eliminate, I probably shouldn't say that, but certainly it would mitigate greater cognitive decline later on, because your brain is being active, not passive. Remember, weightlifting, it's like doing exercise, it's like being involved in a sport. It keeps your body active and healthy and functioning. If you sit on a sofa all day and do nothing, you get fat and then eventually you die. So to be active and be out there doing things creates a better brain. It creates a better body, it creates a better brain. So it prevents cognitive decline as you age. Also, it empowers you to empathize with others. Perhaps you're reading a book that you don't entirely agree with, but you understand where the author's coming from. You get his ideas, even though you don't agree with his conclusions. But it'll help you empathize with other people who hold that view. Maybe they're in a similar situation. Whether it's all right or wrong is a whole different question, but it'll help you empathize. Also, if you read novels and you get your head into other characters from other times and other cultures, that will also help you empathize with people in a broader way around you than in perhaps the monocultural environment you're in, or just your limited interaction with people at not on a deep level, maybe more on a surface level. But when you read a book, you're getting into the ideas of the author. And if you read a novel, you're getting into the ideas of the characters as well. And maybe the author's ideas about the characters, but maybe the character is going through something that you've never been through. And so it gets you thinking along those lines in a different way than you would otherwise. The other benefit to regular reading and why reading matters is because it reduces stress. Also, it lowers blood pressure and heart rate. That's probably good for me because I've had what clinically high blood pressure for a long time, and so it's probably good for me to be reading. Maybe it would be worse if I'm also taking olive leaf extract, which is good for blood pressure too. Anyway, those are possible health benefits to that. Also, this is all according to healthline.com, and I'll have the link there that you in the notes. Fights depression symptoms and contributes to a longer life. So reading on a regular basis and reading good material can help you with depression, or maybe symptoms of depression potentially, but also statistically, people who read on a regular basis do tend to live a little bit longer. So all the way around, it's a pretty good habit to get into, regular reading. Now, what are some common challenges to regular reading? First of all, it's finding time. So if you were to read 3.5 hours a week, which is only a half an hour a day, according to the healthline.com study above, it could add upwards to 2 years onto your life. So not only do you have all the other benefits, brain health, increasing your vocabulary, prevents cognitive decline, things like this, it also adds 2 years, potentially could add 2 years to your life if you only read a half an hour a day. Now, I'm sure nobody's so busy that they can't pull off at least a half an hour a day. Also, a lot of people may say that money is a challenge. You know, you walk into a bookstore and a brand new book is sometimes $30 to $40, and I know from my academic studies you could spend some real money on books, you know, 50 to 100 sometimes on books. That may be true, but also there are thousands upon thousands of quality books in secondhand bookstores that are way cheaper than brand new prices. And if you compare those often to a cup of coffee, I know a coffee shop near me that you'll regularly spend $5 to $6 for a cup of coffee, and you can get on Amazon and find really good books for sometimes, 99 cents. Digital books and things like that. Not that I'm necessarily advocating digital books. I prefer actual hands-on paper books. For instance, this one right here. I have a podcast as well, the Constructionist podcast, and I just did a book review on C.S. Lewis' The Great Divorce. Now, it's a lovely little book, and the nice thing about these guys is that this one used to belong to a guy named Earl S. Ensign Jr., March 6, 1954. And then I added my name to it as well in 2015 when I picked up the book. So books have history to them. They're marvelous little nuggets of knowledge and wisdom and help you in your understanding. But I don't recall paying very much for this book. I mean, look how old it is. I probably picked it up at a thrift store for 99 cents or something like that. So no, money does not have to be an option. You just have to know where to look. Some people will say reading is hard. Yes, and that's what makes it valuable. The reason why it's valuable, the reason why you get all the benefits you get up there is because it challenges your brain and makes it think a bit more than it would just passively watching films or TV shows or something like that. So get over the idea that it's hard and just start reading. Digital devices are a major distraction, as we mentioned before. And also, perhaps you just flat out lack motivation or interest in the subjects. But you must be interested in the subject because you're taking this course on how to read a book. So I would say that if you have a lack of motivation and you're taking this course to maybe help you get motivated, then what you need to do is realize that it is purely a decision that you have to make. You will begin reading books because you recognize all the benefits that I just read you off of my nice little card here from healthline.com and other places as well if you do the research. So my challenge to you, and I'm sure your challenge to yourself, is you want the benefits of reading books, and so now you just have to learn how to correctly and effectively read them.